ashes burn in the snow on the night, it's our turn.
Everybody, what's up, Star Wars Unlimited fans? Loopee at Late Night Gaming, and I am excited because we are here to talk about this Dark Lord of the Sith, Vader, today. For those that are very long-time viewers of Late Night Gaming, you'll know that Vader Force Ramp was one of my primary Set 1 decks, and actually the very first deck tech video that I did. And I'm really excited about Vader in Set 4. I think it's an entirely viable leader. It's got some very good matchups we're going to be talking about. And there's a cool thing going on with showcases where if you're at a sector or regional and you are the best Vader player, you'll have the first ever Vader showcase. So I'm here to talk about one of my favorite decks. What we're going to cover today is, first off, why Vader? Why would you play this leader? I just talked about the showcase in a second ago, but the only reason you should bring Vader in the right attitude is that you're actually going to win the event with Vader. So don't go for it just trying to top cut. Nobody tries to top cut. You absolutely are capable of winning with a Vader deck, and that should be your attitude if you're trying to succeed. We'll go over the list. We'll talk about the early game plays for Vader. We'll talk about turning the corner, which I think is a very important thing for this deck, the late games, and the matchups, both good and bad. Why play Vader? So the first thing that we have with Vader is a very powerful leader. Okay, when he comes out, he's a 5/8. He has a good on-attack ability that does 2 damage to literally everything. I always kind of like to picture Vader whipping TIE fighters out of the sky as you're attacking, but his on-attack is good. His non-deployed side is also a very powerful leader ability, and it's deceptively strong, right? And what I mean by that is if you actually play it in practice, the pings really solve a lot of problems. They add up damage on the other side of the base. You'll see in a second that this is a Data Vault deck, so you have a little extra base damage, and there's often a differential if they're playing Tarkin Town or ECL that goes. And then it also, because of that leader ability, which obviously costs 1, it allows you to play under curve well. And that's important into a lot of decks, and in particular into my baby, Quinlan Tarkin Town. Playing under curve can give that deck fits. So this is a deck that actually matches up well. I played a lot of testing games. I played against myself a lot in Quinlan. Before I started playing against myself, I think I actually was 80% into Quinlan Tarkin Town. Against myself, it dropped a little bit when it's there, but I do think it's favored. Vader, at least this list of Vader Green, is a very strong deck endgame. There's a couple of things, primarily Pelp, that might get on top of it that are still mid-range, but the majority of the mid-range decks, you're going to have the inevitability, which is a cool way to play the game, right? If you're actually pretty sure that you're going to win if you go long. Significant healing, all right? So what eventually got me to the showdown wins in Set 1, and I think Data Vault actually helps, is the strategy where you're actually trying to heal as you play Vader and kind of widen that margin that you start with a little extra base health. And it's surprising how much you can heal with Yularen Crumb and Reinforcement Walker into the game, but that's oftentimes what puts you on top. Vader also, unlike a lot of mid-range decks that don't have red, really does have some tools to handle hard control. And we'll talk all about that on the last slide today. So Data Vault, that is where my Vader list is. Actually, Set 3, the Vader list that I ran was ECL. And that's a different deck. There's still arguments for doing ECL. It allows you to play Darth Maul and some other cards that actually can, in a different way, help you against Sabine. But I think Data Vault is the way to go in Set 4. And when we're looking at Data Vault, the main thing it does is thin your deck. That's the downside of the actual 3 health. Now, you look for a deck for Data Vault that has ways to duplicate effects, right? And for example, ramping. I mean, I run 6 cards. I'm not actually running resupply carrier right now, but I think it's fine to do. But because you can add a bunch of cards that do similar things, I mean, you could add price if you want more ramp. There's a lot of ramp available in Villain Green. You can still kind of get that consistently despite a 60 card deck. Also, and I touched on this before, my Vader list is healing, right? I mean, the little bits of heals you get from Crumb and Yularen, and then the lot of bits of heals you get from Reinforcement Walker are important to the strategy, so that extra little bit of health can really let you take some of the body blows that you're going to take if you're running Vader into the deck. So I think Data Vault is the choice. It's not unreasonable to do a 30-point base if you just want more consistency. I mean, say you want to get to Barrage more often, 30 is fine. ECLs has some big advantages, but you have to deck build a little bit differently for it. I do like Data Vault, and I do think it's the right kind of deck for it, because you can both, kind of get to the right number of ramp for you. I mean, you don't have to go with my exact list. And you can actually heal through quite a bit of threats. All right, so this is the list. Let me hide my camera so you can see the sideboard for a second here. It is definitely a mid-range deck. It's a mid-range deck that leans towards control. I play very few removal cards in Vader. Open Fire is kind of an emergency one. If like somebody plays the new Falcon that's going to get a bunch of pilots on it, by all means open fire that. That's a good thing to do. But I'm focused very heavily on units. Okay. And I think this is about the right level of greed for a general meta list. I mean, if you play more copies of Devastators or the Red Devastator or more of the really big stuff, you're going to be even stronger in the end game. But there's only so much you can do without completely punting to Sabine. And Sabine is a deck that's not going anywhere. It is a poor matchup because of Wrecker ECL, and we'll talk about that. But I think that this has the right mix, and in my testing, it's done very well into some very good opponents and a lot of gold fishing. So I think that this is about the right level of greed. Vader does play 1-drops. Vader plays 1-drops because then he can play 1 and ping on the first turn of the game. Whether you want Crumb or Stormtrooper, in large part depends on who your opponent is. But Crumb is a very, very good Vader card. And then there are Sentinels. I do main deck both Black Sun and Phase 3. Both of those can be pulled with Vader unit, which is a very, very strong unit for us. Vader unit 1, not the pilot Vader, the first Vader. Being able to pull Sentinels as your whip invaders is usually a very strong play pattern. So you can keep it. You sideboard out Sentinels with some frequency, but I think that it's tough not having both. Nobody likes really running them, but they're like vegetables, to quote a Woo video from a while ago. There is the upgrade. The Fallen Lightsabers we'll talk about are important to a couple of matchups. Why not Vader Saber? Vader Saber's fine. It doesn't give you the health. One of the things you're really trying to do with Fallen is make a unit survive until 5 resources when you can barrage off of it. So the extra health from Fallen is as important as the extra attack, and it doesn't need to go on a force unit. In fact, usually it doesn't. In the sideboard, I mean, we have a lot of tools, particularly for hard control. We'll talk about this. Literally, the entire sideboard comes in for Bosk, but it also is where your upgrade removal is. If you're playing like on the day that I'm releasing this right before Richmond, I'm probably actually main decking the Fangs because of some Han pilot stuff that's going on. But you, of course, have to know your meta, know your opponents. What do you think the things are going to be, and adjust a list. This is, I think, a great list for generally into set 4. You need to tweak to what's happening in the meta and what opponents you expect at any time, particularly if you're local and you know what decks the best players are going to be on. All right, and let me get my camera back on. This is my spreads after actually more than 200 games of testing Vader. So this is Swoo Stats, which is a very good tool for data-based testing. I think it's really, really cool. And what I'll say is if you're testing your decks and they don't have numbers that are hovering around 50%, either you haven't done enough testing. If your numbers are all really, really high, you're probably not testing the right way. You shouldn't be, when you're testing a deck, trying to necessarily win every game. You should be trying different lines. You should be seeing what works best, and you should be finding hard opponents. I played against myself as Sabine a huge number of games here. When you see Dooku, that's not because he's a bad card. I think he's a good card, but he's a card that plays into primarily aggro, which is not where we're strong. So, I mean, keep that in mind. You're trying to actually get good results. Same thing with Relentless. As you're looking kind of at your spreads from testing, I mean, Relentless comes down in very specific matchups, and it's very, very good in those matchups. So it doesn't mean that you should run 3 of that card and just jam it every time. That's not the case. I mean, the percentage is as it is because it has a very specific purpose. It's very good at that purpose, and usually that works when we go. So I want to give these stats out there. One way that you can give my list a whirl is Swoo Stats, and the cool thing about this is Late Night has a tab there, and ours are all free, all our decks there. If you actually click on the little deck list generate button on Swoo Stats, and that's the link that you test with, either if you're submitting them live or doing a digital test or whatever's happening, it actually kind of aggravates it for everybody. So Vader Nation, I'm calling on you to give the list a whirl, but the more kind of player data into different kinds of things we get, the better we can tune this sucker and be even more successful. Also, on Sweetie B, I just published the list a second ago. It's got 3 likes already, so that's cool. But find us there. Please, if you're on SwooStats copy my list, give me a little heart there. I'd like to see Vader at the top of the hot decks list. Who doesn't want to see that if you're a Vader player? Also, you can hang out with us on Discord on Late Night Gaming. And I suppose I should do the obligatory. Please like, comment, subscribe to our channel. It really helps a lot. We do a lot of things. We do a lot of coverage. But also hang out within a Discord. We have a deck list upgrade. So let me know what you think as you try this out. So let's get to the lines. All right, so early game, what are we doing with Vader? I mean, one thing we should be doing is our leader ability. I think that people probably underuse it if they're not familiar with the leader. I mean, you want to be pinging in a lot of matchups, probably most matchups. It's particularly important if you're trying to play under curve, say into a Quinlan. It adds up. I mean, we're trying to get to the end game healthy enough that we're going to be able to turn the corner, and the closer they are to dead, the better. So if you can ping, the ping also is very useful for decks like Luke, where you can take his shields away. Gar Saxon is a favorable matchup in my testing because you can eat all the shields with your pings, but you got to be planning ahead. You got to be planning that you're going to have a villainy card that you're going to play with at least a resource left, and you're trying to do these. Vader Pilot, I put as an early game unit because if you get the sense that they don't have any upgrade removal or not enough space in their deck, there's decks that are like that. A Vader Pilot onto, say, a Kylo tie or the Von Reg tie that I run is really a strong play because if they don't deal with the debt, they're both dead, and you're going to be able to barrage for a lot. And it's always fun when you can beat even like mid-range decks without deploying your leader as strong as he is. So I think that that's a reasonable play on 3 or 4. Crumb is probably my favorite unit. If I can get a Crumb, I'm always real happy in my opening hand. Yularen sets up your heals for the body blow type matches that we're talking about against aggressive decks, aggro, and then also aggressive mid-range. And then Super Laser Tech is a very, very good ramp card, and you want to do that the right time. And you don't necessarily want to ping your Super Laser Tech. If you're sure it's going to be able to attack into the other unit, do it that way. I want to talk about when and how to ramp, because one thing I think I see is, maybe people that are used to playing decks like Han Solo that always ramp on curve, ramp too soon with Vader. When you're doing the 7 deploy leader against a lot of things, when you should be ramping is from 6 to 7, right? And that can be a resupply carrier. That card is fine, by the way. I mean, if you want more ramp, that's the next one in. But you want to go there. That's just essentially as good as an early ramp, and you can get really behind on board if you resupply into the wrong decks. Like, I resupply into Sabine sometimes, but it's almost always from 6 to 7. Super Laser Tech's a little bit more nuanced because you have the ability to kill him. So that's one good thing that Vader has. He shares that with Palpatine Leader, that you can use your leader ability to kill your own Super Laser Tech. That's not always what you want to do. I mean, if he's going to be able to get a kill and they're not running things that can punish a Super Laser Tech, going late, such as no glory, no results, that's a really nasty thing to happen to your Super Laser Tech. Traitorous is kind of similar. But if it's not a deck that runs that kind of stuff, I mean, a Super Laser Tech late can be fine, and if you can bash it into something they have for 2 damage, and then also ping their unit, you've actually just, put yourself up 3 in total value. So don't ramp too soon with Vader, particularly against an aggressive deck. The time that you know it's safe to ramp is if they resupply. Well, then you probably can too, because you're not getting behind on board. And then, Super Laser Tech gives as much value. Squeeze it out of it as you can. Your pings add up, and it's not always the right thing to kill it yourself, though that is sometimes the right thing. Once you're past the early game, you turn the corner. And I've put 3 of the most important corner turning cards here. One is Vader Unit, extremely powerful for a red-green Vader deck. It is, I still think, the best 7-drop in the game because it plays extra things for free. If you're playing against a villain blue deck, it's your best friend because you want to put out a bunch of other units to eat things like Power of the Dark Side as you're going core to the deck. And as you start slinging Vaders, one thing it can turn on is Barrage. I mean, Barrage is probably the best removal card in the game still, but you need to have a unit out. So, like running a Vader on 7 and then making sure you have initiative that you can Barrage can be a real strong play line. Sometimes that's the right thing to do, and you just don't deploy, and because your Barrage is so good, because you set it up and you kind of surprised them with an early claim. The other thing that as you get to the Vader parts of the game, it turns on his Force Throw. I call it Force Ramp Vader because it does play Force Throw. If you watch our stuff a lot, you know that's my favorite card. This isn't Quinlan. This isn't Turret. This is not a deck that easily enables Force Throw. I resource Force Throw a lot more playing Vader than I do playing either Quinlan or Turret. But into mid-range, when you're turning the corner, it is still, I think, the best card in the game. You're both getting a card out of their hand, and you're probably killing a thing. The time that this deck plays Force Throw is not on 3 resources, 4 resources, 5 resources. I mean, Fifth Brother's another reasonable card for the deck. It was one of the last cards I slimmed out of it as I was kind of adjusting to the meta. But that's not what you're trying to enable Force Throw with. You're enabling Force Throw with your leader, Darth Vader unit, and you're trying to get maximum value with it. You also can throw your big cost cards at big threats. That's often how you do it because then you're playing like 1 to do 10 damage if you throw a Devastator at them. Okay, that can be the game-winning play. So as you're looking to turn the corner, you need to be looking at, I might head on damage. Now, say you land that Vader pilot, you can do a lot of damage, okay? And if you're to the point that, even if it is an aggressive deck, if you're to the point that you're a lot closer to lethal than they are, I mean, you need to be attacking base. I mean, stop playing control. Stop. If you can find games that Wu plays on Kira, great player, has a cool channel, but he's very, very good at this. I mean, is trying to turn the corner, decide at what point of the game I am attacking the base. I am now the aggressor, and I'm not the control deck. How close are they to being in check? There's a good KTOD video that was released this week talking about check. When one action kills them, that puts your opponent on a really kind of tough spot, right? So they need to kind of instant claim. So if you can play a card that puts them in check, you should play that card, and then you're turning the corner, and then they might have to instant claim because they can't remove it, and then you do as much damage as they can, and they're probably looking for a Hail Mary at that point. The other thing that is unique to this and then kind of the blue-green mid-range decks is how much healing am I able to do. Say you have Yularen, Crumb, and a Reinforcement Walker out. You have, some ability that you're going to be expect that you're healing on your 33 health base, going forward. What you want to be doing is, can I out-heal their remaining threats so that I should be attacking the base and no longer trying to kill their stuff? Or at least not with expensive stuff. Now, you always can Force Throw. That actually gets rid of one of their cards in addition to maybe kill something. But you gotta know when to attack the base. And also, you should be thinking about what kind of deck the opponent is. Is it a control deck that has 30 cards that all are removing your stuff, or is it a deck that's primarily aggressive that really doesn't have removal and can't deal with what you have on board? So these are you are looking for your opportunity to turn the corner. You can miss it. It's easy to get kind of stuck in control mode where, hey, I've been killing stuff their whole game. That's what I continue to need to do. But you're going to miss a lot of wins that way, because if you're looking carefully at the board state and how much health everybody has left, I think that people oftentimes will start attacking the base too late. All right. And in the game, one advantage of this list is we do just have a lot of threats. Okay, so as you get late in the game, Reinforcement Walkers are there. That's actually when the Timelies are best. Okay, so the Timelies are oftentimes in your row, but sometimes you're using them for one to ambush a super laser tech if you got a really nice juicy target. So that's a play that happens early. But a lot of times, they're actually in your resource row and you're smuggling out in a very kind of grindy match, late in the game. If you can timely a Reinforcement Walker, well, you either just heal 6 or drew 2 cards. That's something that I want to do. If you can timely a Crate Dragging, get out of town. What else ends the game? Darth Vader, if they can't answer your leader, they're going to die soon. So if you get the sense they can't answer your leader, and I put here, Fallens protect it. Both Vader and actually Crate. If you're running your Crates and you can get a Fallen on it, it's kind of a cool visual. But, if their only removal is takedown that they're likely to have, maybe it's open lists later, and then you can use Fallens to kind of keep them out of that range and also represent more damage that turn. That's a real strong thing to do. Relentless is also, part of the closing, particularly against control, but not just hard control. Against Kira, Relentless can be a very good play, and other decks like that. If it is blue-red control with Super Laser Blast, ending the game, sometimes you just have to eat his Super Laser Blast, to get it out of the way. Sometimes Relentless can prevent it, but you can push through it. You can refill your board. Vader unit is the best card for that because it plays multiple things at once, like we talked about before. But sometimes you have to push through your opponent's Super Laser Blast and then just win later, but that's entirely possible to do. Other times you can prevent it with Relentless, or at least delay it. Okay, so let's talk about the primary matchups here, and I'm hoping that one of you guys is going to take this and win a sector or regional, as I can't because I'm calling them all. So Sabine, it's not what you want. You do not want Sabine ECL to sit down across from you, but I think to actually win an event with Vader, you'll likely need to at least skill gap a less experienced Sabine player early in Swiss, and even into myself, and I was a runner-up on Sabine, I'm about 40-60 as Vader into Sabine, and that's good. Okay, if that's your worst matchup. The reason Sabine ECL is bad and why it got bad in set 2 is Wrecker. One of the strengths, if you remember, of Vader, one of the reasons we play him is the big leader side. Well, Wrecker kills it and does the overwhelm damage, which is really kind of efficient for them at 6 resources. But first off, you got to make them have it. They only have 3 in their deck. They don't draw it every time on 6. Okay. I mean, I don't think there's that much you can do to stop it. I mean, even if you play phase 3, your ground sentinel into it, or the tank. I mean, it's either one of those are still kind of record vulnerable because the 3/3 sentinel they can destroy with the when played, and the tank actually just gets overwhelmed for 6 instead of what Vader would be. So you do want to make them have it. I can tell you, I think that one of 3 things happen usually when I win with Sabine. One is Dooku related, and I mean, if you can set up that's actually like a Dooku on 4 resources. If you have a couple of things with high attack, say a Kylo tie and a Stormtrooper, that can actually do a lot to stabilize the board. And then you have a 6/6 overwhelm that maybe you use to kill Sabine leader and then trades with Poe. That's one thing that can happen. My favorite Sabine wins are the Fallen Lightsaber related ones, and I'll talk about Darth Crumb strategy here. So Crumb with a lightsaber has 6 health and hits for 4. Crumb with 2 lightsabers hits for 7 and has 9 health. Okay, so if you happen to have those cards, and I mean, it's just kind of luck of the draw what you get out of your Data Vault deck, but try just throwing lightsabers on Crumb and then going, base against Sabine. It kind of hard checks them for Pro. So Dooku is one thing that wins. Fallen Lightsaber. Also Fallen Lightsaber on phase 3. The Sentinel that gets experience when it survives combat. That's a good one. And then probably the last thing, it's usually a big barrage off of the space unit. And the Vader pilot is very good in this deck. And I really think this is the best set 4 card for our Sith Daddy. And the reason I think that is it's good as a pilot. It's also pretty good as a unit because it's a 7/7 and it's a big barrage. And actually it can be time lead for 8 and kill something and live, on the ground arena. So either way, into Sabine, it's probably that Vader pilot goes on a Kylo tie or a Von Reg tie, and then you're able to barrage from him. But that's also just a ton of damage in the space arena. So if they aren't expecting that, it goes well. Then finally, as you're doing this, heal as much as possible. Sabine needs to make up 8 health. She starts at 25 health. You start at 33. If you heal quite a bit with like Yularen and Crumb, a lot of times you can stabilize. Walkers, don't board those out for Sabine. You want to have the walkers. Sometimes that's what you stabilize from eventually. The games can get a little long, but also you should be winning against Sabine sometimes without deploying your leader. And Darth Crumb is one way that does it. But, like I said, when we're turning the corner, I mean, you got to watch it. If you've done 12 damage to Sabine's base and you have a big threat out, it's not a given that you want to kill their unit. You probably actually should be attacking her base because ECL has a lot less health than you do. All right, so favorable matchup, I think. Quinlan Tarkentown. One reason is that we have 1-drops and want to play 1-drops. Most of the Quinlan lists don't do that right now. Now, if Vader, wins the sector and the regional, they'll probably be adding 1-drops to deal with us. But as for now, I mean, playing a 1-drop and pinging them back is a good strategy. You want to ramp. This is, I think, the biggest exception. Discard decks. Quinlan, Han, yellow. Now you do actually probably want to ramp as soon as you have it to make sure you get it. And make sure you can get it. But, I mean, getting to Vader like the same turn that Quinlan flips is strong. So you want to do that if possible. But you need to ramp. Keep in mind Force Throw. I mean, if you draw 2 Crumbs, you probably should be playing one and bouncing one and back and forth with Crumb. You gotta play Vader to kind of get your Crumb game to where it should be. But it's a good idea to keep one for Force Throw. And then, I mean, just understand that in that matchup, you're going to have the inevitability. So, I mean, Quinlan can't handle a Devastator, not a Green's Devastator. That just doesn't happen. I mean, they can waylay it and then something else can get, slammed for 10. Be patient. I mean, sometimes those games go a little bit long, but it's a good, favorable matchup into what probably is the best deck in the format right now, in my opinion, Quinlan. Other mid-range decks. Okay, so some of these are good matchup, some of them not as good. I think Luke and Piet. Actually, it's kind of where left to right. The mid-range I want to face the least is on the left, and most is on the right. But you want to be playing defensive until it's time to turn the corner. If they're on ECL, that actually might be an immediate turn the corner. Sometimes upgraded per removal is really important. Is the meta upgrade heavy today? I mean, if this was April 25th when I'm recording this video, I'm probably playing Fangs just because Han is running so much pilots right now. But you got to make some meta calls, and you got to actually adjust your deck, of course, to it. And you look for your end game trump cards into midrange. You're looking for the reinforcement walkers. You're looking for, in a lot of these matchups, relentless. In a lot of these matchups, you're looking for your big dev. Like Anakin's not on the list. That's another mid-range deck. Good mid-range deck. I do well against Anakins. But their Devastator's particularly good just because they really can't answer it usually. So other than with Feld the Dragon. So you do that, and then a lot of times you're slinging Vaders, you're playing Sentinels as you go to prevent data as your base and stay healthy so that you can finish them off. Hard control. Hard control actually I think is a matchup that we certainly can win. Relentless and Palpatine's Return. I mean, these are cards that are in lots of green villain decks because they're so good against hard control. Palpatine's Return doesn't only bring back force units, though sometimes it's really cool to play Vaders for 6. It also brings back Relentless. So if you got 2 Relentlesses and 2 Palpatine Returns in your deck, you're going to be able to play that card a lot, which gives control fits. Pillage, we have access to. I think it's Pillage. Forced Surrender is actually arguably as good or better for Vader, but Pillage is more efficient. It's at 4. And a lot of times into boss, you just kind of want to pillage early to deplete their hand. You don't want them to have too much removal as you get to the point of the game where it matters once you start playing big stuff. So Pillage is a very good card. Reinforcement Walker, just because it's gas, and you really shouldn't need to heal with Reinforcement Walker once into control, but they got to kind of answer it, right? Because they can't let you draw all kinds of cards. If you're able to flood the board and they don't have a Super Laser Blast anymore, you've won. All right. That is not the matchup for Barrage. Barrage requires a unit to be out, which is hard against control, and it requires a unit to kill, which isn't always there for control. Sideboard wise, I mean, literally it's the entire sideboard into Bosk. So, I mean, you take out, some of your Sentinels, maybe Barrage, slim down. Sideboard works best for you, but you want your Pillage, you want your Palpatine's Return, and one thing I do think you need to do is be cognizant on game 1. Okay, you improve a lot into hard control as you get into games 2 and 3. I mean, if you lost game 1, don't make it be another 20 minutes until he actually gets lethal. Just concede and get your sideboard in there and get there. All right, so that is my deck tech and guide for Vader. I mean, I always say long live the Empire. If you get a Vader mirror, do that. But I hope this helps. Please like, comment, subscribe to Late Night Gaming. Hit us some of the comments and let me know what your testing results are. Let me know where I'm wrong. So thanks very much for watching this. And if you watched this far, you're my hero.